Good morning, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy. Apologies if the hair is a bit wild, but it's another very windy day here in Caithness. If you live in Caithness, which is really far north in Scotland, about as far north as you get before you step off the end of the world, um, you learn to live with wind and you learn to not ever really expect to look tidy. you know, you can look like whatever you want, like in your house before you step outside for the day. But once you step outside, you're pretty much fair game. So we've got another good letter this morning. And it's really, really interesting. I haven't given it much scrutiny because I thought, right, let's just jump straight into it and unpack it together because sometimes my better thoughts pop up while I'm just getting on and reading these things. So that's what we will do. Let's see if I can put a bit of light on. Am I too light now? It always alters it anyway. I tried to adjust the lighting. Give me a second. I don't know if that'll do anything. Right. Okay. Let's look at this. So where are we here? It's this one we want. Right, so it's a Lina Friedman letter from Ellen Garofalo, and it is dated September 17th. And it's all about Steve Sarowitz being recorded without his knowledge. So it goes back to that affidavit that Blake lodged that claimed that there was verbal abuse. And we talked about verbal abuse and what is meant by verbal abuse, what constitutes verbal abuse in yesterday's video of mine, where I said, sometimes you just randomly sat somewhere or crossing a street and somebody yells something out of a car window at you that can be horrifically offensive. I mean, it's like I said yesterday when I said, like, I'd been parked on this street and this, I think I was looking for a business or something. I'd just pulled in. So it was like a one-way street, but like, a quiet, off the beaten track kind of one-way street where maybe 3 cars pass per hour or something. And this guy just passed in his car and called me a stupid effing C word just for being parked on the side of the road. But it wasn't, what I didn't kind of say yesterday was it was a day when I didn't feel particularly great. So that guy saying that like that out of the blue is like a shock to the system. And when it's like I've said before over hypnotherapy, when you get a shock like that or somebody says something out of the blue that really makes you go like that, it goes straight into you. It shoots in, your attention gates are wide open and focused on it. So that it really did shock me. It wasn't it's like we've all experienced this as women, somebody insulting you out of the blue or saying something shocking or calling you something that really speaks to who you are in terms of your moral character or your intelligence or whatever. But it was more the bodily shock, I think, as much as anything. So it kind of raised an interesting point. This person who seems to be a man who supposedly, has written this affidavit or sworn this affidavit that Justin Baldoni verbally abused him on another set. It's like, come on then, well, what are we talking about? And this is really what this letter is saying today. And it's another big FU in terms of Wayfarer team's approach to Blake Lively. It's this thing of they keep reiterating in a way without using direct language. We're not afraid of the evidence. You clearly are. You're the one that keeps redacting things. You're the one that wants it sealed all of the time. What is your problem? If this is what you're relying on, it's going to come out eventually. Why aren't you standing behind it now? And of course, the timing of that affidavit as well was in line with the treble damages claim. It was part and parcel of it. So here's Ellen's response. So, dear Judge Lyman, on behalf of Wayfarer Studios, you're not saying all of that, we submit this opposition to plaintiff's letter motion 781, requesting the court continue to seal the 1. Portions of the memorandum of law in support of Lively's motion for attorney fees, treble damages, and punitive damages under California Civil Code, and 2. Portions of the declaration, and 3, the entirety of Exhibit 1 to the declaration 748.3. collectively the materials. So this is interesting because previously we thought it was just like this statement or whatever it was, but now what we're hearing today is that actually an audio recording was made of this meeting between this person, this witness, and Steve Sarowitz about events that happened on this separate Wayfarer production, is what we understand so far. For the reasons described below, the Wayfarer parties respectfully request that the materials be unsealed, except for the witness declarant's name and the title of the project that the witness worked on. So that's fair enough, isn't it? They're not asking for the privacy to be exposed. So the materials concern an alleged recording made by the witness of a conversation with defendant Stephen Sarowitz without his consent. And this is where you can immediately tell it's a Wayfarer letter and not a Blake letter, because it doesn't say multi-billionaire defendant Steve Sarowitz without his consent. You know, if you were blindly looking at these things without like the titles and stuff on it, and you were having, and you just somebody gave you a quick snapshot and said, is this Wayfarer, is this thing, and you didn't have the context with Stephen Sarowitz's name, you'd know, oh no, that's a Wayfarer doc, because it doesn't say multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz. That's definitely what that is. So anyway, plaintiff seeks to seal the audio recording in its entirety, although she purported to selectively quote from it in a portion of her brief in the public unsealed version she filed with the court. Lively boldly claims she placed the substance of the relevant information. And we know how Blake is with substance when it comes to text messages and picking and choosing, doesn't it? She doesn't like context surrounding things very much. From Exhibit 1 in the public record, flatly ignoring that the person recorded without his consent, Mr. Sarowitz, should be allowed to have the entire recording made public to ensure accuracy and provide context. So it's like I said, Wayfarer are not worried about the evidence that Lively has against them. I mean, even if there's like the odd swear word or the odd thing that doesn't sound great, we're all human beings. We all say stupid stuff. It doesn't mean we're guilty of crimes or guilty of defamation and retaliation. We're allowed to have stupid thoughts or be pig ignorant at times and all of the rest of it. So whatever Blake has, they're not worried about it looking bad for them beyond them making a bit of a casual human slip up. So as previously stated by this court, the Supreme Court and Second Circuit have long held that there is a presumption of immediate public access to judicial documents under both the common law and the First Amendment. So materials filed in connection with dispositive motions, such as motions to dismiss, are judicial documents entitled to this presumption, quoting Olson versus Major League Baseball. A strong presumption of public access attaches to materials filed in connection with dispositive motions, such as a motion to dismiss. And more case law quoted there, where granting motion to unseal motion to dismiss, finding it as a judicial document for which presumption of access applies. So where the presumption of public access is at its strongest, as it is here with respect to the materials, the presumption only can be overcome by countervailing considerations in extraordinary circumstances, United States v. Amodio. Although a third-party witness name may be redacted to protect their identity prior to trial, the redactions plaintiff requests are not narrowly tailored to serve the interest of protecting the personal information of the non-party. So there's more than the names and where they worked and what have you, isn't there? There's actual context that's been blanked over. With respect to the brief, plaintiff seeks to seal two portions on page 5, the name of the declarant at the top of the page, and 2, a description of how Exhibit 1 was produced in footnote 9. The Wayfarer parties have no objection to the first requested redaction, but as no explanation was provided for sealing the last sentence in footnote 9, and none exists, that sentence must be unsealed. Plaintiff already disclosed that she produced Exhibit 1, 744, Part 2. Further, she publicly disclosed the document was an audio tape by citing to time markers, minutes and seconds, typically used when referencing an audio recording. Regarding the declaration, plaintiff seeks to seal information regarding the timing of the meeting and the context of the conversation recorded without Mr. Sarowitz's consent. Other than the witness name and the name of the project the declarant worked on, none of the information reveals identity. Plaintiff improperly seeks to hide any context for the alleged verbal abuse, why the meeting with Mr. Sarowitz took place, when it took place, and what allegedly happened after the conversation. Finally, plaintiff does not provide any explanation why Exhibit 1 to the declaration must be sealed, other than it would invite additional media coverage, which she is concerned will be adverse to her. However, it is well settled that generalized concerns of adverse publicity and reputational injury are insufficient to justify sealing records. So the case law cited there where courts generally reject negative publicity as a basis for overcoming the strong presumption of public access to the allegedly prejudicial items. Importantly, Lively herself is responsible for the substantial media coverage resulting from her decision to include alleged quotations from the Exhibit 1 audio recording of Mr. Sarowitz. Certainly, any privacy interest belongs to Mr. Sarowitz, the person who was recorded without his consent. He should be permitted to have the public hear the entire audio recording and not be confined solely to Lively's flawed and out of context purported transcription of the audio recording. So that's a bit of a humdinger, isn't it, really? How do you feel about that one? I mean, it's kind of a hard one to, you can't really investigate too much in a way who it could be, and because it's not like Justin's done that many productions. I did ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was struggling really because it's like only like a couple of films, isn't it, and some documentaries. But it's not actually clear what Justin's role was on it in terms of that letter, whether it was in acting or in some kind of executive function, only that whoever this witness was somehow managed to get him bounced off the production or segregated from him or whatever it was. But yeah, what's more interesting really than all of it is that it just highlights, doesn't it, how Blake cherry picks information and how the truth doesn't matter to Blake Lively. It's like, can you imagine the glee and the excitement that she had when she got hold of that? And you've got to think about the moral quality of the person involved, haven't you, as well, that's done this? That, you know, it's like it's like I said yesterday. I don't for a minute think that Justin Baldoni has called somebody on a set something along the lines of a stupid effing C, like I was called just on a random street. Can you imagine what verbal abuse, from what we know of Justin Baldoni so far, can you imagine what verbal abuse looks like to him, given his faith and his feelings on things? I mean, I imagine he's more firm with men than he is with women, I would think, in terms of the language he uses. I'm sure he uses the F word and the rest of it. But what is the worst he could possibly have said to this guy? So Steve, and it's like I said over Steve Sarowitz, I get the sense with Steve Sarowitz, just what I've picked up more than what I've read is more like he is the money man. He's not generally involved in the day-to-day running of the sets and what is going on and the creative decisions made. He leaves that to Justin and Jamie, is my feeling. But it does feel like, from little bits I've picked up, that if something goes wrong or there's an issue, he does want to be who's messing with my mojo, because it's like the money. So it's like, what's the problem here that is causing excess money to be made? I think that's where he steps in. And from little bits I've picked up, I do get the sense of Justin and Jamie kind of a little bit being in awe of him. I don't think they'd necessarily, I think they would, you know, like, because whatever they come up with in terms of a project, they have to sell to Sarowitz in a way in order to have the financing, I would think. So I think there's that little bit of awe in place there. So it's be like running to teacher all the time or something like that, wouldn't it? So it does feel like whoever this person was, this guy, was causing an issue that might have led to financial implications on the set, which is probably then why Sarowitz is involved. But I mean, what was that person thinking in terms of they needed to record Steve Sarowitz? Why did they think that they needed to record the conversation? What were they hoping to get out of that other than just to prove what was said? Was it to be leveraged against someone in terms of, did this guy, whoever it is, this witness, think that he would be able to sue at some point or other, so he wanted it recording? We don't know all of the motivations and all of the rest of it, but what we do know is that Wayfarer is saying, we are not worried about what was said. Steve Sarowitz, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath seem to be people that are happy to stand by what they've said, even when it's imperfect, that they know they're not guilty of doing anything that is legally questionable. They're fairly secure in the morality, is what we get the sense of. That's not to say they won't swear and they won't get harsh with people and they won't be very business minded and the rest of it, more towards Jamie and Steve with that one. I get the sense that Justin is like the creative one that goes la 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 and a bit of this and a bit of that, and they're like, oh, we've got to find a way to kind of make it fit onto the spreadsheet and the rest of it, that they don't trouble him so much with how it's going to work, but they kind of give him the creative outlet. I feel I could be doing Justin a slight disservice there, but I get the feeling that's what it is. But yeah, I think this letter speaks volumes to the case, and maybe is why Wayfarer aren't so worried about the day-to-day rulings that the judge seems to go against them, because they know when push comes to shove, there simply doesn't seem to be a case here. There's no, all of us smoking guns have come to nothing. I mean, I said that yesterday when we didn't even know that it was an audio recording, and that they're quite happy for all of the surrounding information to be revealed other than the name and the name of the production. So they're not worried about what's going to come out in any sense. They're not part of the PR strategy, and whatever people are doing as PR and crisis PR on behalf of other people that may or may not be questionable, they know that in their day-to-day dealings of being on movie sets and their day-to-day dealing of how they handled the press of It Ends With Us, didn't do anything that was morally or legally questionable. Those three of them, is my feeling, at least, Justin, Jamie, Steve Sarowitz. And I don't get the sense Jen Abel did either. I'm not saying Melissa Nathan and Jed on other projects with other people who have different moral boundaries and the rest of it are doing certain questionable things. But that's what this case keeps coming back to, that the core group of people are not people that set out to hurt people in their day-to-day dealings with them. We're quite clearly seeing that they only react like this when the unfairness is at such a level that they have no choice, where they just have to point out the ridiculousness of it and the cherry picking and the woman back here that keeps saying everything that they do is PR related and public strategy and the rest of it. Meanwhile, she can do these things and call it a legal strategy. They're not allowed a legal strategy, as we very well know. So hopefully this one gets passed and Judge Lyman says, right, let's see what's in it. Let's see what's in it. Let's see what the accusation is. And then we can talk about whether it's a valid accusation or not. But even so, the judge might just come back and say, this has nothing to do with this case, and just decide to strike the whole thing. that might be what happens, which would be entirely frustrating. But he might say, "Well, we're not accusing Justin Baldoni of coming at you with verbal abuse here. This is not an SH accusation against him. It has no relevance in this case." So if he doesn't want to deal with it, if he is truly biased, which I don't think he is. I think he's just a pain in the ass. But if he didn't want to do this, say he was biased, then he might just strike it and not deal with it at all. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. So, have you come up with any theories as to who this mystery man is? And we're assuming a man because the word he was mentioned at one point. So, who is it? Who's this man that can't take a bit of a bit of verbal abuse from a nice boy of faith like Justin Baldoni? Who is this person that can't take a bit of aggravation? It will be interesting to see if giving a bit more context around it actually reveals any more. Because right now, there's not very many productions of Wayfarer that you could potentially look on and come up with a problem. And has Blake found this person, or has this person found Blake? Who went to who? Would be interesting to know as well, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's it for today. Just a little quick one. Please do hit that like and subscribe and share if you can. Oh, the only other thing I guess is we haven't really spoken about the new attorneys on Baldoni's side of things, and people are obviously clearly still saying that they think it will go to a settlement, that settlement talks are going on behind the scenes, and that maybe some of what Wayfarer has been putting out there and the silly kind of supposed mistakes they made over the Taylor thing and Swifton thing is that it's more like direct messages to Blake about I can't think of the right pulling herself in, getting staying in a lane or whatever you want to call it. But I think at this point, I don't know. I think short of a full apology, full mea culpa on Blake Lively's part as to accusing Justin of SH, I think this is going all the way. I still think I still think that I think they would settle, but she isn't. If she's going to refuse to apologize, I think that's the crux of it, really, because it's the SH allegation of it all, isn't it? Because short of having an apology for that mud sticks. It's like even when you're cleared of things as more questionable people, you might say, like Kevin Spacey and people like that. I'm still a bit like on the fence over Kevin Spacey, because the evidence against him was quite, and the stories were quite persuasive. But it didn't help that he always played bad guys, did it, and stuff. But you could imagine Kevin Spacey being quite if you were in a one-to-one situation with him, you would find him even though he's not the biggest man in the world, he is quite a force of nature in terms of character, isn't he? But short of Blake coming forward and saying, I misinterpreted this, I'm sorry for accusing him of SH or putting it in those terms or alluding to that or whatever, I just think Wayfarer are gonna go all the way. I think they've really peed off Steve Sarowitz, and he's not worried. All they're concerned about is the truth and clearing the names and that. So do they go away quietly? I just don't know. I think this new counsel is on board, and bearing in mind that she's dealt with the Diddy case and helped in that, so she is a criminal attorney, handles criminal matters, then I think that makes it very interesting, because we have alluded to before in terms of Van Zandt and other things, that is it that Wayfarer are just juggling away in the background, brainstorming all the ways they could take this case and all the potential outcomes, and they've kept the cards close to the chest because they're dealing with a pair of narcissists who will say and do anything, that they are up behind the scenes trying to figure out, can they make this criminal? Are we going to appeal? What is it going to look like? Are we going to see if we can get criminal charges of some kind or other? Be interesting to see. But you let me know your thoughts about it all. And as I said, please do hit that like and subscribe and share. And I will see you again soon. See you later.